So if we were going to draw, sort of diagram this sentence, what it says is that everything in each of those groups must be H. So if you're in the MX group and not FX group, you must be H. And if you're in the FX but not MX group, you must be H. And if you're in the intersection, you must be H. So if you're male but not female, female but not male, or male and female, you must be human. And maybe there are humans elsewhere, but if you're in any of those groups, then you're human. And that's, well, right, and so that's what for all x, fx, then hx, and for all x, fx, then mx says. And so when we see all males and females are human, that's like saying all males are human and all females are human. And so we symbolize those two separately. And what's key to see what's going on here is that in this case, the complex subject is actually two determinative phrases. So when you see a complex subject, you have to think, is it one determinative phrase or two determinative phrases? Is it one determinative phrase with a complex noun phrase, like every and then lonely novelist? Or is it two determinative phrases, each with their own noun phrase, in this case, like all males and all females? And so in this case, the main connective is a conjunction because it's all males and all females. It's just like in chapter 2, if we say Bob and Jill are human, we symbolize that as Bob is human and Jill is human. So the only difference is we have these two. Well, there are two differences. One is that we're working with complex subjects, all males and all females, and the other is that we reinsert the all that was dropped out. So again, so this is an example where the logical vocabulary with scope if we look at the noun phrase at the beginning, the whole phrase at the beginning of the sentence, we get a connective out of it. In the case of every lonely novelist, it's a universal, but in this case, it's a conjunction. And that's even though we have quantity words like all in the conjunction. So you need to pay attention. Which one are you going to do? Now, if we think about this, go back to this diagram, think about how would you describe the condition. So if you're in MX, you're human. If you're in FX, you're human. What's one way we could describe that? In one sort of one sentence, we could say you're each thing that is either a male or a female is human. And so this could be symbolized with using just one quantifier, but it's for all x, mx, or fx, then hx, not for all x, mx, and fx, then hx. The mx and fx would only talk about the intersection where the two circles overlap, and it would describe the property being human only to things in there. But this sentence is more than that. It describes a property to anything that's in either one circle or the other, and so it would be an either in the antecedent if you were to symbolize this sentence with just one quantifier. And this symbolization for all x, mx, or fx, and hx is equivalent to the symbolization for all x, mx, and hx, and for all x, fx, and hx. Okay, so that's complex noun phrases. We'll be working with them more, but that's what we need to know about them right now. Let's look at complex verb phrases. So, every dog is either happy or loud. So, well, how do we break this? Well, we have a determinative phrase, every dog, and we have a verb phrase, is either happy or loud. So the determinative phrase gives us the determiner every, and every gives us this format, the universal, x is the noun phrase, the conditional, x is the verb phrase. We know what the verb phrase is. It's x is either happy or loud, and so that's going to be symbolized as hx or lx. And then dog is the other part of the determinative phrase. That's the noun phrase. The noun phrase gets symbolized in the antecedent, so we have x is a dog in the antecedent, and so we have if dx, then hx or lx. So the verb phrase can have logical complexity. It doesn't have to be a simple, and so far the verb phrases we've looked at haven't had logical complexity. They've just been one verb and one predicate. So is happy or runs or whatever. Here we see a complex verb phrase, and you need to symbolize the complexity of the verb phrase in the appropriate place in the right way, as we just did here. So again, when you see these, when we get to more complex sentences, you just want to say, sort of do them piece by piece the way I've been doing them here, and you'll be fine. But you need to keep track of what's the determiner word, what's the noun phrase in the determiner phrase, and what's the verb phrase. And then you also need to keep track, and then, you know, symbolize those piece by piece. And you also need to keep track of the difference between every lonely novelist on the one hand and all males and females on the other hand. When we have complexity, is the complex in the subject of the sentence, do we have one complex determinative phrase, or do we have something else, multiple determinative phrases? Okay, so that's the Chapter 3 symbolization for this unit. The rest of this unit will be discussing Chapter 3 derivations.